On the surface, Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends was a very lighthearted show, but after watching the episode Good Wilt Hunting, it's clear that the world of imaginary friends wasn't as peaceful as you might think. The episode introduced one of the more violent characters in the show, who is actually responsible for maiming one of Foster's VIPs, Wilt. It's time for us to talk about Foul Larry and to figure out what made him such a nasty imaginary friend during Wilt's youth. Now, if you don't remember Foul Larry, that means you either haven't seen Foster's special episode, Good Wilt Hunting, or it was so dark that your mind chose to forget about it. Foul Larry was an absolute beast of an imaginary friend. Not only did he have a massive body frame that could easily overshadow other large friends like Eduardo, but he was also super tall, like taller than Wilt tall. That shouldn't be much of a surprise though, considering the fact that he was literally designed to play basketball. Only, unlike Wilt, who was created by his kid to help him get better at the sport, Foul Larry was designed to be a much more aggressive player, which is why he needed to be so massive. Larry had a lot of distinct features that separated him from the other imaginary friends, but the most notable was his basketball head. And I'm not making fun of him like Helga calling Arnold football head, I mean that he actually had a basketball for a head. Much like his head, Larry's body was a basketball orange color, and he wore a green jersey with the number 0 on it. All in all, he was an interesting design for an imaginary friend. But just looking at his size, you'd think that he must be a football player or something. So why did his creator make an imaginary friend that was more like a tank rather than making one that looked or was designed like Wilt? Well, that's because Foul Larry was created as a direct counter to Wilt by a rival basketball player. You see, the episode Good Wilt Hunting explains that Foul Larry was created by a young boy who was jealous of Wilt's creator, Jordan Michaels. According to the episode, when Wilt was first created, he and Jordan used to play basketball at the local court every day, and as you probably expected, Wilt and his human won way more than they lost. As fun as that was for the imaginary friend and his creator, the kid that Wilt was playing against clearly got tired of losing all the time, and instead of trying to beat them on his own, he decided to even the playing field. The unnamed rival of Jordan created a friend of his own named Foul Larry, and designed him specifically to take Wilt down. This is why he was so much taller and outright larger than Wilt was. On top of that, there's a good chance that since he was created out of hatred, jealousy, and aggression, Foul Larry carried those emotions with him. This aggressive nature that Foul Larry was created with turned out to be one of the biggest character traits, and honestly, it's what made him such a good basketball player. But just because he was good at the sport, that doesn't mean he was a good imaginary friend. If he was, do you think he would have put a child's life in danger? Because that's exactly what happened, and as a result, Wilt's life changed forever. Now, before you go thinking that I'm exaggerating when I say that Foul Larry almost killed a kid over a basketball game, try to remember what happened in Good Wilt Hunting. According to the flashback sequence that showed viewers how Wilt ended up with one arm and a wonky eye, he received those injuries when he saved Jordan from being crushed by Foul Larry. And it was no accident. During the flashback, Wilt and Jordan were challenged by Foul Larry and his unnamed creator to play a 2-on-2 match. The pair accepted, only this time, claiming victory wasn't as easy. By the time the clock was nearly out, the score was 47-48 in favor of Wilt and Jordan. But Larry wasn't going to go down easy and decided to take one last shot before the buzzer went off. Wilt stepped in to block the shot, but as he did, he noticed that Foul Larry was about to fall right onto Jordan Michaels. Whether it was intentional or not, Foul Larry was on a path that would have certainly made him a killer if he landed on a kid and crushed him. I mean, Larry was huge and likely weighed at least 225 pounds, if not way more. Wilt knew that he had to step in before it was too late, and he luckily pushed Jordan out of the way before he was crushed. The lovable imaginary friend wasn't so lucky though. Larry landed on Wilt's left arm and crushed it, which was followed by his eye getting hit by a basketball that Larry had shot and scored. This means that in one fell swoop, Wilt lost his arm, his left eye, and the winning streak that he and his creator held in their home court. Foul Larry played more aggressively than anyone that Wilt had ever come up against, and because of all that happened that day, Wilt's pride was destroyed, and he forced himself to run away, leaving Jordan with nothing but a wristband he found left behind at the basketball court. But that couldn't be the end of Wilt's story with Foul Larry, right? As you know from watching Good Wilt Hunting, Wilt made it a point to reunite with Foul Larry on the same court where he tragically lost his arm, and he challenged him to a one-on-one rematch. Foul Larry was probably shocked to see Wilt, but ultimately saw it as another chance to prove that he was the best. So with a sinister look on his face, he agreed to the rematch. Wilt was off to a great start, but once again, Larry was up to his vile ways and cheated aggressively by shoving Wilt and even knocking him down multiple times. And if you didn't know, those are all personal fouls, which makes them illegal in basketball. But Larry didn't care, he just wanted to win. Little did he know, everyone on that court would get a win that day. As the game was coming to an end, Wilt was shocked when his creator, Jordan, showed up to the reunion. This time, Jordan was able to pull Wilt out of the way of Foul Larry's dangerous signature shot known as the Slam, much like how Wilt saved him the first time around. Jordan thanked Wilt for everything he had done for him, and the two shared a heartwarming moment. It was actually so heartwarming that Larry felt touched and almost immediately chose to change his ways. Foul Larry's sudden change of heart goes to show that his creator never gave him any appreciation or affection. Instead, the kid simply used him as a tool to take out his rival on the basketball court, and that was all Larry was good for in his eyes. Wilt and Jordan continued their heart-to-heart, and Jordan did something totally unexpected. He offered to let Wilt live with him in his mansion. He was a famous basketball player after all. This was a super tense moment for the show's characters and everyone at home watching, because no one wanted Wilt to leave Foster's. That being said, he was such a kind person that he definitely deserved to be happy, and if that meant being with his original creator, then I'm sure all of Wilt's friends would have accepted that decision. The big question now was, would Wilt take Jordan up on his offer to live with him? And if he did, what would happen to Foul Larry? Thankfully for viewers and the rest of Wilt's friends at Foster's, as tempting as his creator's offer was, the one-armed basketball-playing giant knew that he couldn't leave his new home, leading to a happy ending not only for himself, but for Foul Larry as well. Wilt explained to Jordan that even though he was beyond happy to see him again, it would probably be better for everyone if he returned to Foster's. That way, when another child who needed a friend like Wilt came along, the imaginary friend would be there, ready and waiting. This obviously made Jordan sad, but at the end of the day, he respected the decision, and the pair compromised by agreeing to keep in touch and even visit every now and then. But that doesn't explain what happened to Larry. Well, fast forward a little to the end of Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends reunion. It is right after they show Ed and Coco saying goodbye to the people who created them that fans get a glimpse at Foul Larry's new life. And what do you know? It all started at Foster's. At the end of the special, we see a bunch of Wilt's old companions from the basketball court, including Stats and, of course, Foul Larry. Larry was reluctant to move into the house with the rest of the friends, and he justifiably feared that he would never be adopted. I mean, imagine how you feel if you had just realized that you were an awful bully who almost killed a kid and maimed another imaginary friend. Larry likely had self-esteem issues along with strong feelings of guilt for what he did, so it's no surprise that he worried no one would want him. Lucky for him, Foster's was a supportive place, and Frankie was first to tell Larry that he'd probably get adopted in no time at all. The episode ended on a lighthearted note as Wilt and the rest of the gang of imaginary friends watched one of Jordan's professional games, during which Wilt showed his passion for the sport. I mean, his commentary was more intense than most actual sports commentators, but after such a rough episode, it was good to end with a laugh. I'm curious to hear though, what do you think happened to Foul Larry after he moved into Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends? Did he get adopted like Frankie suspected, or did he somehow regress and return to his competitive and bullying ways? Be sure to let me know what you think in the comments below.